Welcome back to the podcast. Today we've got Kevin Thompson. You know him from the $1 Million Relationship podcast, right? In the space where those big giant relationships. I'm excited about having Kevin on. Not only that, we've got comedian Connor Bradley on. It's always fun having Connor around. He is a comedic relief and brings a lot of fun to the show. And we've got the legendary sales trainer Joey DeSanto on with us. Joe, welcome to the show. Gentlemen, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Awesome to be here.
Hello there, Anthony and gentlemen. Looking forward to this one.
We're going to talk today. We're really going to get into the $1 Million Relationship. Kevin, I was on your podcast the other day, and you and I had this amazing conversation. Really dove into the question, Kevin, you asked me was, who was the relationship that I don't know, that really triggered some stuff in your life? The key relationships that kind of triggered my life, right? And there was a couple of key ones back there, and I talked about Kevin Flynn, which Joe and I definitely grew up with. One of the guys he and I grew up with, and talked about mom a little bit. But we got into those key relationships, Kev. That was a lot of fun to do that.
Yeah. It is pretty awesome being able to honor some of those folks that have had such a profound impact on our life and on our business. Because, here's something very interesting is I've discovered over my years of doing what I do, I get to work with and serve and come up alongside some pretty amazing entrepreneurs who are doing really big things, making massive impact in the world. And what I have discovered is that it doesn't matter how big of a business somebody has. It doesn't matter how great things look from the outside looking in. There is not a person on the face of this earth that gets too much appreciation. And go ahead.
Like celebrating them.
Yeah.
It brings that to light. There's like a joy, like when we finally celebrate people.
Yes. And when we are just genuinely appreciative of people, and I'll tell you, hosted, I think we've just released 250 some episodes of the $1 Million Relationships podcast. We're almost 3 years into it. It has been hosting that podcast has been the most rewarding thing I have done in my 28 years as an entrepreneur, because every single episode I am helping other people show genuine appreciation for other people in their lives. We get to do that. And I can't even imagine anything more rewarding than that. And you want to talk about open doors and getting doors open? Start showing genuine appreciation for people. You'll open doors. You'll start conversations, because, like I said, people don't receive enough of it. Everybody wants more genuine appreciation.
Kevin, I got to tell you, that's something that Anthony does very well.
Oh, he does.
There's very few people that I have seen. Now, this is not a promote Anthony's show, but I want to put that out there. There's very few people that I have seen that know how to do that well. And I'm one of those people that struggle with that, because I'm so task oriented and need to get more focused on just appreciating the person that I'm working with, and not so much just the task. And when I do that well, I can see the difference in the relationships.
Totally. Yeah.
So let me ask you guys something. So who might be? I'll kind of go around it each year. Who might be a pivotal relationship in your life, and kind of give me why. Don't go in. It doesn't have to be a half-hour thing, but let's go into. Can you think of a key relationship in your life, and why that was the leverage or the fulcrum or the change? Can you see where life was going one way and it went another way because of that person? Can you see that? Can you guys think of one that you might have at the top of mind?
Oh, I've totally got a guy at the top of mind.
Go ahead, Kevin. Who do you got?
So it's my friend Isaac. I met him 13 years ago. He's a venture capital guy. From the time I met him, we just made this intense, meaningful connection, because we were in a mastermind group together, and I had shared some stuff with the group that just really resonated with him. I'm not going to go into detail, but what I will tell you is this gentleman, he's a billionaire, and I kind of I used to put entrepreneurs like that kind of on this pedestal, because I'm like, man, they have achieved so much more in their lives than I ever have achieved in my life. And yet over the last 13 years, him and I have created just such an amazing relationship. And I have been able to be this conduit of trust for him. And we were even talking just last Friday. And I've been making some really powerful and valuable connections for him lately. And he when we were talking last Friday, he was like, Kevin, he's like, please don't ever stop being you. Don't ever stop showing up the way that you do. He's like, you are one of only 3 people that hold the space you hold in my life. And he's like, I appreciate you and the work you do so much. And for a guy like that, you know, I mean, yeah, we can bring our gifts to the table and stuff, but it's who we serve that is the horsepower right there. And who we choose to serve with our God-given gifts and abilities. That's what makes the difference. And we don't hold the same value for everybody. We hold the same value for those people who are like-minded, who we share core values with, and that's who we are most valuable to. And Isaac, I am so appreciative for that guy, because he is constantly inspiring me to just level up and just continue leaning in to the role that I get to hold in people's lives.
That's awesome. So Isaac, in your life, you can see that you meet him and he kind of lights your light, right? From there, you can see all the stuff you guys have done together. Joe or Connor, what's go next? Who's got a person you can think of?
Yeah, I'd say there was a big moment. My senior year of high school, I decided that I wanted to play hockey, and that's a way more involved process than I thought it was at the time. First, you have to learn how to ice skate.
Good call.
But I over the summer, I took some skating lessons, and I showed up for the tryouts, and I tried out for JV because most of these kids have been skating for since they could walk. But my Coach Doug, this guy for some reason put me on his hockey team, and I went on to actually, I assumed I'd be benched most games, especially when it was nobody played me, and I ended up scoring 3 goals, which is 3 more goals than I ever expected to score playing ice hockey. So, I mean, just the fact that he threw me in there, he kind of believed in me, he gave me that shot, and I mean, I could talk about it for hours. I had so many teammates that I was just the funny guy in the locker room too, which was great. You're kind of worried. You're like, okay, I'm 5'7". At the time, I probably weighed 120 pounds. I was like, what am I doing on this ice rink right now? But no, I made a lot of great friends there, and it's something I look back at today and I go, well, if I could do that, I could probably walk into any room and figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, like Coach Doug takes you on and lights your candle. Right, like all of a sudden he lights you up. Right, you get this shot. Right, 3 goals. Whereas, I mean, and you got to be in a locker room. You got to be part of it. Right, he gives you the break. Right, all of a sudden you've got this shot. Neat. That's a good one. I like that one. Joe, how about you?
Well, why don't you go first, Anthony? Mine might be a little on the. I want to fit mine in at the end here.
So I go back and, there's a couple really key guys in my life, right? There's there for sure. Well, first of all, I got to say mom, right? I look for sure. I can't deny my mom was, key to my, really, she was the wind under my sail, under my wings, the one who look, I always knew no matter what happened. I used to always say this as a young man, no matter how bad my life gets. I mean, girlfriends could leave me, my wives could leave me, my kids could hate me, my jobs would quit. No matter what, my life could fall apart. And no matter what, I could eat chicken cutlets on my mother's couch. No matter what would happen, I could move into mom's house. I could eat chicken cutlets. So what that gave me was, it gave me the ability to swing for the fences, right? When I swing for ideas or things or companies or businesses I want to run, I could swing as hard as I want. If I failed, the worst case scenario is I'd live on my mom's couch, right? And and she made a pretty mean chicken cutlet, right? So I would tell you, one of my favorite things on the planet was mom's chicken cutlets, right? She had, I don't know, like her fingers had spice. You could make the exact same recipe. It would never taste the same, but my mother's fingers had spices on them, and somehow or another, her chicken cutlets would make you magic. Now, I would say that's one for sure that made the wind. Now, there's guys like Kevin Flynn, right, where I meet him in my early days of sobriety, and I had never met a multimillionaire before, right? And what's fun about him was his dad, and I used to always say to him, being around his dad taught me thoughts, actions, and behaviors from people that I had never seen before, right? Like I was this little, young man who always was entrepreneurial, always excited, always a hard worker. Like I always had something to prove, right? I was kind of a young little punk, and being around his dad and him, and he got a lot from his dad, was a lot about, behaviors that were organized and systematized. And a lot of what I got for the companies I have today are because I met him and his ability to, like forecasts and budgets and sales charts and really organizing, creating a plan, making a plan and executing a plan. So I can really see that in the business world, he was one of those guys that also would talk to me about, hey, that doesn't look right, right? Like your look, right? All they see is what they see of you in that 1 hour meeting, right? He would talk to me about how you sit in a room, the space that you take up, how you enter it, what you wear, right? That all you are is a show for an hour, right? If you walk in like a clown, you'll be a clown. If you walk out like a clown, right? It was all about having a plan. Those people walk in and go, damn, there's something about that person from, and that was a great gift for me to see. Part of success is an act, right? It is completely an act, a show, a way of being. So I think that was a neat place early on. So I think that he was a big influence in my life. And I got to look back today and really, if I look at where life takes off. Now he passed away for shortly after that, right? He passed away, great friend, great human being. And he passed away, and his life was taken early. It's kind of a bummer, a freak accident. But this is a man who really affected my path. I can look back and say that's one of the big players.
For me, I think, it depends on the time of my life, right? I've had so many people that made, some big impacts on my life. And, when you bring up Kevin Flynn, Anthony and I go way back, and we have very close friends that have passed. And one of those friends, early on in my career, I became very close with his father, who was also a very successful businessman and builder, and him and I think because of the relationship that he struggled with his son, I became very close with him, and he treated me like a son for many years. And I spent hours and hours with this guy, and he taught me really how to think, how to never think about something small. Think about, if you're going to do it, put that extra zero on the end. Taught me how to drill down into deals and really understand what I was looking at, and really want to talk about a grinder. Taught me about that resilience and that constantly going at something, never giving up. He would go after projects and spend years on them, but when they were finished, he'd pull out $100 million in the project. And it was a really learning, and I learned bad things from him too, that I had to shake. But it was really a good learning experience. But today, you brought up your mother. When I was younger, I had this thing that I came from a lower middle class family, and my father made $30,000 a year making. He was a dental technician, and he was an opera buff, and he was a religious guy, and he was the turn the other cheek guy, and I couldn't relate to that. But today, 40 something years later, he's 80 something years old, and I have the relationship I have with him and what I've learned from him about relationships. They live in a retirement community, and when I go down there, I see every person on that block. He's like the mayor of the neighborhood. Hey, Joe, what's going on? He's got me going around, and I have found like the joy in helping these old people, whether it's taking out their garbage or getting a call. Joe, could you come help? Somebody just fell, and having to help an old lady get off the ground, and the appreciation that you have in seeing that. It showed me, the unconditional love that he puts out in the world and how important it is. And that has been very inspirational to me over these last few years, and really a game changer in my life, and being able to watch him and how he does things and learn from him, and knowing just being a good human, caring about other people, how far that goes in life.
I mean, it's amazing, right? Like there, he lights your candle. My wife's Greek, and they're Greek Orthodox, and they only go to church a couple times a year, right? I mean, I'm not gonna. Some go more, but they have this big Easter ceremony, and it's kind of like midnight mass for us Catholics, and it's this Greek Easter ceremony, and we go to it, and it's a beautiful ceremony. Right? It's one of my favorite ceremonies to see, and you walk in, and there's a lot of the chanting and stuff goes on in Greek Orthodox, church, and it's got to be, but then somewhere there they turn off the lights, and the priest walks in, and he walks in with a candle, right? And he comes in and he lights the first row, and then they turn around and they light the second row, and then the third row, and then the fourth row, and you watch this light come across the room. And you watch the little kids' faces light up with their candle, right? They got these beautiful candles, right? And they're beautiful, and their lights all light up. And I'm always amazed they don't burn someone's hair. It's always kind of amazing. But it's amazing that, like, how are those people in our life like that. Those people you guys, that Isaac you talked about, right? That our coaches, those mentors. How do they light us up, right? How does that? how does that, what's the characteristic there? How are they the ones that come in and light us up? And I think we learn from those guys, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
something about that brings energy.
Absolutely. I think that's why I say, depending on where you're at in your life, when you're younger, you got something a little different mindset, right? You don't know how to slow down, right? You don't know how to, take a moment and appreciate the people in your life. And as you get a little bit older, you realize how important relationships are, and the need to develop them out, from a business perspective as well. But just on a personal level, the importance of long-term relationships, and having quality relationships is a key factor in life, and it's proven that it's a necessity, right? And so the better we are at them, the better our lives, the quality of our life is.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the same three probably best friends throughout my entire life, which still isn't too long yet, but I can tell they'll be there for the long run. So that's good to know.
Well, there was a lot of young Anthony was a lot of me, self-interested, so, just maybe not even aware yet of what a more complex relationship was in. And, look, maybe look, if you could, I could relate to being a dog walking in a room. Right? I got this dog. Her name is Gucci. You watch Gucci in a new room. She walks around. She smells everybody. She's over here. Look at that. Oh, the pizza. Look. She's over smelling crotches. She's over. Look, that's like here. That's how I was as a young man. I'm walking around eating pizza, smelling crotches. Right? I mean, that perplexed most of my young age. Right? I ate a lot of pizza and smelled crotches. It was a lot of kind of what it was, and in some way, it may be even in discovery. Right. I was discovering the planet, trying to, check out this new space. And then the dog, like the dog, she calms down at some point, and then she'll lay down and kind of be present to the people there. And she'll walk around and get pet by some folks, and whoever pets her the most, she gets the most. She'll sit by their feet for a while. And it's kind of fun to watch it. I feel like that's the same way in life when we find those people that see us and pet us. Right. And we start to build that relationship. I can relate to that. Right. Can you guys relate to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we invest in those relationships, and like we talked about before, just being genuinely appreciative of those people and the role that they hold in our lives, and the relationship that we have with them, and just expressing that regular, it's and I'll tell you, my belief, especially as those of us who are entrepreneurs, relationships are the most valuable asset that we possess. Everything else stems from that, and the right relationships. When there's two kinds of trust. There is trust in competence, and then there's trust in character. And when both of those trusts are in place with people in our life, when we have trust in their character and trust in their competence, when we just know who they are, well, now there is zero friction, because lack of trust is always what causes friction or things to slow down or what have you. But when there's zero friction, things just happen in flow. They happen with ease. It happens quickly. And that, I just want to continue having those kind of relationships with the people in my life where there are those two trusts in place: trust in character and trust in competence.
So let's talk about that, because I see over my life there have been times when I've got relationships, and some of them are great. Look, I'm not going to tell you that even some of my worst. I mean, I've got some friends who are just they're great, but I'm not sure how much I don't know how much of my light they light. Some of my old friends, maybe even are kind of like the Mexican crabs. You guys ever hear a story about the Mexican crabs? You're trying to climb out of the bucket, and there's always some crab pulling you down, right? Instead of pushing you up, they're the Mexican crab pulling you down. You ever hear that story?
Yep.
Right? I hear, by the way, I don't know if there's such a thing. It's just a great fucking story. I don't hear. Is there such a thing as a Mexican crab? I don't know. I just hear this. This like one of these metaphors that I don't know. I heard on one of these damn podcasts somewhere, and I'm like, I love that. I'm gonna use. So somewhere I got to go find those Mexican crabs. Somewhere down in Cabo San Lucas or something. But this way of being where I am lighting people's light rather than extinguishing it. I'm bringing brightness to them. But there's been times when I can't see that.
Sure.
Right? I mean, where I can't see that the people around me are naysayers, right? What are some signals? I mean, have you guys been in that spot where you look at the people around me maybe aren't serving the brighter me?
Totally. There's relationships that are in our life for a season, and relationships. I think back to, because, I'll give you an example. I spent 7 years of my life working, right after I graduated high school, I joined the Army for 4 years. Then I spent the next 7 years of my life working as a commercial fisherman in Alaska, on Alaska's Bering Sea.
Wait, you were on one of those fishing boats?
I was for 7 years. Hardest I ever worked in my life.
Wait, so where? Tell me about this for a second. So we're like the TV show.
Yes, in fact, in 2005, because I used to tell that story of my years fishing in Alaska in a previous business sound. It was part of the sales process, and it was online all the time and all that. I get a call one day in 2005 from this guy who's like, "Hey, I saw your website, and I see that you used to be a commercial fisherman in Alaska. I am getting ready to go to Alaska as part of a film crew, and we're going to be on these fishing boats filming these fishermen. I just wanted to talk with you, if you don't mind, a little bit about your experience." And so I talked with him. Little did I know at the time, he was going up there to film the very first episodes of Deadliest Catch, which turned into this big, huge thing. Yeah,
I love
Awesome.
that show. I
That's,
love
that,
that, right?
that's great.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there was like that time when TV was kind of fun. There was like Duck Dynasty and Deadliest Catch, and do you remember the other one, the Storage Wars?
Oh yeah, Storage Wars.
Yep. Remember that guy?
And then the pawn shop guys, the pawn
shop guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That was like some good TV. I feel like it was a good era of TV. There were you got into those guys and the characters, and they could have died. I mean, look, that Deadliest Catch was pretty badass. So
Yeah,
you were on those boats.
I was, and I worked with those guys, and I will tell you, they are guys with incredible work ethic, and when they're not working, man, they know how to party too. You know,
I'm sure they do.
and
I'm sure they do.
and in that age of my life, in that frame of my life, I could party with the best of them. And those are some great friendships that I've had. I still see some of those guys on occasion, but they are not relationships that I am actively engaged in pursuing these days. I do not actively invest in those relationships. That was a season of my life, and it was great, but those relationships, they're just not, and there's no harm, no foul. It just is what it is, you know. And same thing with some of my Army buddies. I've reconnected, you know, after 20 plus years of not seeing Army buddies. I got out of the Army in '88, and you know, I've reconnected with a group of them, and we hop on Zoom every once in a while, and that's cool, and it's really cool connecting with my old Army buddies. But you know, those relationships, they're not serving me today, and I'm not serving them. Other than we just talk about the days that we shared in the Army, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we have relationships that are in our life for a season, and we do have also relationships like my three buddies that I've known since I was a kid.
So Kevin, Kevin, I got a question for you because this is always an interesting topic. You know, you have these friends as you're younger, and if you're, you know, if you happen to, it sounds like maybe you have a similar story to Anthony and I. You come out of, you know, being in the lower middle class or middle class neighborhood, and you were on a mission to build a different life, but you have these friends that you know, you were close with growing up, but you know, for whatever reason, you know, you went your way and really, you know, started stepping up life in the way that you wanted to step it up, and then you get these you know, guys who some of them wanted to, you know, hang on to your coattail, or some of them you know, different things happen, you know, that they drop off, and then there's these resentments that come in because they think that you've somehow slighted them or not giving them the attention that you should have given them. Somehow now you're an egomaniac and you're this, that, and the other thing. But really, you focused your life in a different way, and they didn't. How do you feel about that? You know, we talk about sometimes, you know, that people, you know, in the war of life, you know, you end up sometimes with dead bodies behind you. But how do you deal with, you know, keeping those relationships alive at the same time as making them understand that just because we're at a different place, that maybe we're not, you know, I don't, you don't know where I'm going with this. It's an interesting thing. Anthony?
No,
Well, and I think that some of those relationships, they're not meant to be kept alive.
Right.
You know, and I mean, heck, I have relationships like that where we used to be friends for a season of a period of time, and as my business grew and I became more successful, some friends they were of the belief that, oh, well, we're buddies, you should help me out. And sometimes I do that. I will help people out and stuff. But they went more. Well, you should help me out more, you know. And I'm like, no. I say, you take care of you. I say, I'll help you out. And heck, I've even got extended family members that are that way, you know, a brother-in-law or what have you, that feels that, well, we're family, you should take care of us. And I'm like, no, you take care of your house, I'll take care of my house, you know. And there are people in life who are takers, and there are people in life who are givers. And I prefer to hang around with people who are givers and stuff. And you know, and even like the family, I mean, like, you know, we still see each other at get-togethers and all that, and we just have differences of opinion, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine, you know.
No, it's interesting in that you know, I can even say that there's times when some of those old people, I'll go back and help, but sometimes I have to question my integrity, right? Because some of that comes from my lower me. I want to like show how much I've done, and I got to look at it. You know, look, I'm building a family. I'm building a career. In order to do what I'm working on in my life, to live this adventure, right? I can't be in that spot where um, there are certain places where, like Kevin was talking about, they're just takers. They're not going to get there, or and maybe it's not that we forget about them. It's just I can't have people that are dragging down the ship, right? I'm really working on, I'm creating something, a life that's worth living. And look, there's plenty of people out there. There just some people, you stop and focus on them, and there's this person over here. You're not helping me. You're not helping me. And there's this other person over in the room that's really hurting, that really needs your help. And just a little bit of help lights that person up, and all of a sudden they prosper. It's that loudmouth relationship one who's the taker, who sucks up your energy, and maybe even is malevolent at the undercore, right? I'm like, look, I like the guy who, when I'm driving on a street, I see him out there pushing his car that broke down, right? When I see the person sitting out there and they're pushing the car, I want to jump out of my car and help push their car. But the guy's sitting in the car waiting for you to help him. I'm like, come on, look, get out here and help. I'm happy to help. I believe most of us are happy to help those that are out there trying, right? If you and I, if I see you trying, there's nothing. I look, there's some gift of being a human, helping each other. I think each of us believe that when I'm my best me, right? When I learn from you guys, what I learned from you, Joe, and Kevin, and what I learned from you guys is that when I watch you guys help others, like, I really get that there's some gift in that for all of us, right? There's a gift in there for me to learn that behavior. And by the way, you get it back tenfold.
Yeah.
Like, somehow or another, the universe, when I'm a taker, those are the guys who, I got a guy who, he keeps calling me up begging for money. Hey, hey, can I get, and I'm like, look, I've helped you out. And, there's a little bit of a little BSer going in there. And I realize that I've crossed the line from helping to enabling. Right. And then there becomes that part you're going, no, look, that guy's, he's not out there helping. He's not out there helping himself. He's out there, enabling. And now when I see them turn around, I go, no, watch. But there's others out there who I'd give my shirt for. I'd give everything I got for, because look, like, I've been helped by others. I'm grateful for the men who picked me up, the guys who dragged me off the ground, the guys who Joe, I mean, you're one of those guys who pulled me out of the darkest parts of my life and propped my ass up in days when I couldn't be there, and, primed my pump and then got me moving. And, I think that's what makes that's why we're friends for 38 years, right? I mean, there's something about the gift of having relationships like that, kind of those boys that you're talking about, those guys where you're in this relationship for a long time with, and it goes back and forth. It's not just a one-way street. And the ones that become one-way street, you go, hey, look, I thank you, but I got somewhere else to go.
I think what you're saying is key for people to hear, because I know anybody who's on the journey to improve their life, right, are gonna have people that are hanger-oners or entitled to what they believe is something they deserve from you because they've known you for a while, or whatever the case is, and that's not necessarily the case. We I should say that's not the case. We should do what we can do for people when we can do it, but we got to always have those boundaries up and know that this is our journey. It doesn't mean you walk all over people, but you need to protect your family, your career. You need to do the things that you need to do to continue to grow, and not necessarily be concerned about hurting somebody's feelings, because you can't just give and give and give when there's no reciprocal relationship there.
Yeah. When we give to people who just really appreciate it and are thankful for that, and are also like-minded like us, that they're givers too, there's no better feeling in the world than that.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
And by the same token, it's all about just how does the relationship feel, and we know how it feels. I mean, we just tune into our intuition. We know how a relationship feels, and if it feels right, it probably is right. And if it doesn't feel right, well, there's something that's off there. And no, like I said, no harm, no foul. just go hang out with the people where the relationship feels right. You know?
No, there's a gift in that. Kevin, you were talking a little bit about the work that you do with $1 million relationships. You've got some mastermind groups that you've got together, and talk a little bit about that. I mean, how those forming those networks of bringing people together. Talk a little bit about how that's working and some of the ideas behind it. So give our audience some ideas on maybe how to create some of those groups for themselves.
Yeah. So in fact, it's there. I'm hosting one of those groups at the top of the hour here and stuff. And so what I do is I get small groups of entrepreneurs together, 3 or 4 tops, never more than 4. And I'm always very intentional about who I invite. So the entrepreneurs that I invite, and I call this a virtual roundtable. I've done over 400 of them at this point. The entrepreneurs I invite are entrepreneurs who are well-established entrepreneurs. They are beyond the place in their business where they need to create cash flow for sustainability. They've already done that. And their focus is, how do I use my business to make my biggest impact in the world? That's their focus. Beyond that, I do not care what business they're in. I care, so as long as they're at that place in their business, and on the other side of the coin, they are some of the most giving, generous people you would ever meet. And in fact, their default position is they always show up with the intention of, I want to contribute, I want to help, I want to serve, I want to pour into others. If anything, they're like I was for most of my life. They're great at giving, maybe not so good at receiving. And if that's the case, that's cool, because I'm going to give them the opportunity to receive as well. And I make that very clear with them. And I'll tell you, when you get that kind and caliber of entrepreneur together, where everybody shows up that way, and then I just get to get them under my umbrella. I spend about 10 minutes setting the context for the conversation, and everybody shows up. Nobody knows each other. I never let anybody know who else is going to be joining them for one of these roundtables, because I don't want nobody Googling and researching each other in advance. I don't want anybody coming with any preconceived ideas about who they're going to be meeting. I just want them to show up and just be themselves. And when they show
Love
up,
that idea.
So
nobody knows each other.
So the idea is that they come in. You're kind of like a matchmaker, right? You find, I like this one here and I like this one here. I'm gonna put them together, and now I've got this a group of 4 people. I'm gonna bring together with the idea that they're gonna build a relationship together.
Yeah, and I used to be. How do I frame this? I used to be way more like, I would try to get so and so, and put this person together, and what I found out is, just by letting go of that and say, okay, I am only going to invite the right people to start with, and the conversations that will ultimately take place are going to be so much better if I do my thing, but then I also allow for, whether you want to call it God, the universe, or what have you, let them contribute too. And just know that whoever shows up for whichever roundtable that I host, the right conversations are going to take place between the right people for the right reasons in exactly the perfect timing.
Well, and that's a tough one, right? Especially as we get older, right? My network maybe it's even like when I was Connor's age, I was out meeting new people all the time. I mean, damn, Connor probably met 5 girls last night. Hold on, he's got a girlfriend, but he's out of places, bars, friends, new sporting things, a new hockey game. He's out doing comedy at different shows and different places, and he's meeting new people all the time. But we get older, meeting new people gets a little tougher, right? You got to be a little bit more. You got to get a little more creative in how we're gonna meet those new people.
Well, and then also, as successful entrepreneurs, we want to be effective with our time too. We don't want to just be out there just meeting any old buddy, We want to be intentional about who we're connecting with and stuff. And
So
I
Kevin,
do
are
get,
you
yeah, go ahead.
Kevin, are you doing this? Are you doing this as a networking mastermind group that you're charging for, or are you like to somebody? Is it a membership based type of thing, or are you just doing this to help people, including yourself, expand your relationships and your networks to create business from?
So the roundtables, I don't charge anything financially for this. It's a 2.5 hour time investment for the entrepreneurs that I invite to participate and experience that with us. And from there, the right entrepreneurs, they're just like, Kev, man, that was a pretty amazing experience. I would like to talk with you about maybe. I'd like to do more of that kind of stuff. I'd like to have, and so then we'll have that conversation. And it just happens organically with the right people who they appreciate that experience and they want more of that. Well, let's talk about what that could look like and stuff. And I just
And
want to
so,
find out more about them.
so and then are you your job, not podcasting, but your job that you do on a day-to-day basis, or your career, is that coaching entrepreneurs and how to build relationships? Is that where this
No,
started
I
at?
don't do any coaching. I am, I guess if we describe it, I am kind of like a fractional biz dev person kind of thing. I am
Okay.
their conduit of trust, and I just start facilitating relationships for them. I just start putting them in direct conversation with the right kind of entrepreneurs that they need to be connecting with to help them grow their business and expand the impact that they're making in the world. That's what I do, and I do charge an annual fee for it, but I also do, and it's changing now too. This is continuing to evolve. I've been charging an annual fee and a mutually agreed upon revenue share. And that's kind of changing as we go because the projects are getting so much bigger and the value of the relationships is becoming so much more that it just, in some instances, it doesn't make sense to do a revenue share. Or if it does, we put a certain cap on it. I'm even doing equity deals now. In fact, Isaac, the guy I mentioned, he was the guy that was like, Kev, you need to start focusing on equity too. Because he's like, you are becoming world class at what you do. And he's like, you need to be compensated accordingly. In fact, I am getting cut in on equity stuff now and stuff with some of the people that I serve.
The fear I always have with a group like this is like, man, like you said, my time's limited. I got this. You guys ever get that call? Like you agreed to take a call. I got this guy. I agreed to take a call from him, and I can't stop him from texting me anymore. Like I get texts at the most inappropriate time, and I'm like, look, I appreciate it. Right, but yeah, so what happens is we all get that, like, I don't know about you, but I get that fear. Like, am I going to get another one of these guys that hangs? I want to meet new people, right? I always want to. I think you're right in that we've got to keep looking and building. Getting outside of ourselves. If you're going to do, if you keep doing what you've been doing, right? We're going to keep getting what we've been getting. And if we want to do something, if where we're at, we want to grow, we're going to have to bring in some new ideas, peoples, and actions and behaviors, right? We're going to have to bring on some new stuff. And that takes a little bit, look, getting a guy like Kev that builds that for us, right? Someone that helps you build those relationships or start that ourselves, where we bring people together and bring ideas together. That's, you're going to mess up a few times, right? You're going to get that guy who calls me, on Sunday nights and says, you want to come over to my thing? And I'm like, nah, we talked about this. It's not going to work for me. Right. There's that, but that fear kicks in. You remember the time you made the wrong mistake? Joey, remember the time you had a psycho girlfriend?
Oh yeah.
Come on.
Oh yeah.
Connor, you've had any of those?
No,
Right?
not yet. Surprisingly, not yet.
Oh, you're young. You're young. You're young. You'll have someone who's going to cook the bunny rabbit somewhere in the future.
Well, and it's totally true. Once in a while, as well intentioned as we are, we're not perfect either. And I have facilitated some connections in the past on occasion that didn't work out. And once somebody reveals that side that, like, hey, you're not delivering as promised or what have you, then we have to cut ties. and I can forgive them and all that, but I cannot do business with them. And if we go back to Isaac, for example, I've known Isaac for 13 years. We've got a very close relationship. I would never bring anybody into Isaac's life if I thought for 1 second that they would damage the relationship that him and I already have. I would never do that to him. I would never want him having the experience that you just described, going, man, Kevin introduced me to this guy and look what's happening. I would never want that, And
that's
so,
right. Well, that's why you need to have that trusted relationship.
Yeah.
Somebody like you that, hey, Kevin's got my best interest in mind. Look, he's vetted him. He's done. But here, look. What about the entrepreneur, the guy that wants to create this group, right? That doesn't have you involved, right? You want to go out there and create this network of new guys. Where what's some good ways of doing that, Joe? Any ideas? How have you created those $1 million? How are you building new relationships out there?
Well, just before I answer that question, Kevin, do you have to cut off now?
I do. I've got to run. I'm hosting a group call here, and I have to run. This has been an amazing conversation, you guys. And Anthony, if we want to do a round 2 of this, I am totally in for that.
We're in. We're definitely on for that, Kevin. That's awesome. Well, let's just wrap this up real quick, Joe. And any last thoughts you guys have?
No, I mean, I enjoy talking to Kevin and love this conversation. And we should definitely jump back on and talk about how to build these groups and how to build long-term relationships that are beneficial to the entrepreneur and their businesses and their lives. So we should definitely do that on the next episode with him.
Awesome.
I'm totally down for that. You guys just let me know how to make it happen, and I'm in for that. I'm totally in.
Connor, you got any last minute words?
Yeah, just thank you for your time, Kevin. It's always fun to learn from new people about relationships, especially I'm still learning and growing here and figuring out everything in real time. So it's good to be here.
Awesome. Well, Kevin, as always, I'm grateful for you, your time. Audience, I'm grateful for you guys listening. We got to the end of another amazing podcast. We're grateful for you guys listening. Hey, can you do me a favor and like and subscribe? It means the world to Joe and Connor and to Kevin and myself. It's amazing. You guys broke 27,000 followers this week. It's amazing what is going on with the podcast subscribers on YouTube alone. That's just on YouTube. You guys are blowing the doors off the numbers on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's amazing the numbers by which you're growing. I'm so grateful for each and every one of you. Please take a second, like and subscribe, and share that with your friend. And just keep doing what we're doing. Hey, comment. What do you do? What are you doing to build great relationships? Any ideas? Or if you've got a friend you want to have on a podcast or you want to come on the podcast, let us know down in the comments. As always, we're grateful for all your listeners. Thank you.